Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. So, I wanted to come on here today and talk about past lives. Yes, you heard me correctly. You have lived here before. This was a realization I came to after a ton of research, also watching a ton of near-death experiences where people were given these revelations that, oh, they've lived all these lives before and this is why you picked this life because this is a lesson you haven't learned yet, and yada yada yada. Something else that had come into my orbit was a term called the Akashic Records. What are the Akashic Records, Nadia? Well, it's technically an energetic space, it's actually right above your head, or a spiritual library that contains all universal events, all thoughts, words, emotions, actions of you, of any entity that's ever lived, of any place on the planet, of all of your past lives and all of your future possibilities. So there is literally a place that you can tap into, maybe not you right now, but psychics can, that has all of this information about who the heck you are. And I know that as you're sitting in your body and whatever your name is, I'm Heather, I'm 28, that's you maybe right now, but that's not really you. And once you know that that's not really you, don't you just want to know who the heck you are? I sure did when I found out about this. So I'm going to share with you my own experience with the Akashic Records and past lives. And from there, I'd like to share what benefit that had for me. Is that something that you should care about? Is that something that you should look into? You decide for yourself. As always, take what resonates with you, leave the rest. If your ears aren't ready to hear it, it is what it is. Just feel free to pretend this doesn't exist and go about your subconscious programming. That's totally fine. Oh, did I mention too that the Akashic Records are in the Bible? Did I say that? I don't think I did. They are mentioned in the Bible, but they're referred to as the Book of Life. Anyway, let's get started. So, the Akashic Records. I found out about this and I became obsessed. I then realized there are people who specialize in tapping into the Akashic Records. There's a ton of psychics in the world, guys. We're actually all psychic or capable of being psychic. We've just kind of shut down those capabilities in ourselves, which you absolutely can awaken, and that is a choice that you have and something you can work on if you want. I'm working on it, and if you want to work on it with me, that's cool. So what I did was thoroughly research, as I always do, people who have this service available. It's called an Akashic Records reading, and it would be just like going to see any sort of psychic or a medium or anything. They are able to tap in to your records only with your permission, which is interesting. If they don't have your permission, they actually don't get access to a lot of information about you. It's kind of bad spiritual hygiene to do things without permission. And there's actually keepers of this library, and they are in charge of who's coming in and who's leaving and who's accessing this information. So I find this lady. She seems super legit. She is legit. Spoiler alert. I will absolutely have her information available for you guys if you would like to do a reading like this. It is probably one of the most profound readings that I've had, just because it made so much sense, her speaking to me. And the more I've been on this spiritual journey, I've learned that when something feels right, or if you get full body chills, or if you hear something and you're like, oh shit, that's so true. And it's because you already knew and you're just remembering. Your soul knows what's real. You're just human doesn't know what to believe, because we're kind of it's just a meat suit. What do you expect? We're literally walking around in meat suits. Okay? So I get on a call, a Zoom call with this lady. I go into it with a bit of intention, but leaving myself sort of open. I really just want to know what she has to say to me. You absolutely can go into your records with the intent of looking up your business or your home or your love life or whatever. You can totally do that. But I really wanted to be open. So the reading starts with, it's like a prayer. I'd say most of the Akashic record reading community does use a specific prayer to grant access to the records. This isn't necessary. I am learning a different way from Nikki Novo, who is an awesome spiritual teacher, very regular, down to earth person. Like, you'd really like her. The lady I had my reading with, she uses a prayer. We say the prayer together. It has to be like your first and last name. She needs your permission. And then I'm not in her body, so I can't tell you exactly what she experiences. But as she explained to me, she gets like sort of like a medium gets like visuals, or she can hear messages from her guides helping her interpret this information. So the first thing that happens when your record is open, so pretend it's like this big old OG encyclopedia, right? Everything about you. So it opens and you're given a metaphor. Now, the metaphor she explained to me was she saw me walking up like an old spiral staircase, but the steps were like very tiny. She's telling me, she's like, you keep trying to take steps, but your feet are slipping off the step because they're too small, and you're like hitting your shins, and it's kind of like one step forward, three steps back kind of thing, which is absolutely how I felt at the time. And anything in spirituality, like especially if you're getting readings or trying to get your future told or something, which I don't recommend, anything that comes up only pertains to that moment in time that you are existing. So you can go see a fortune teller. They can give you a future reading. You can absolutely change your mind in that second to not have that be your future, make a new decision, and that's it. Like, your future is completely changed. So don't take anything like to heart, okay? But as for how I was in that moment, that's exactly how I felt. I just discovered spirituality and all this stuff, and I'm like trying to open my third eye, and I'm doing all these meditations, and I feel like I'm just not getting anywhere. That's literally how I felt. So that's how my reading started, which is interesting. And then what happens is you can either like ask questions, or usually like a past life will be presented to you. Whatever past life that comes up, there's usually something that pertains to your current life that you need to take from that past life. Like, you either learned a lesson that you need to remember, or there's a lesson you didn't fully learn that you need to complete in this life, something like that, something along those lines. So she's seeing these visuals and explaining them to me over the Zoom call. She said she sees that I've been incarnating in the same bloodline for a really long time. I'm like, okay. She said that it looks like I'm in the Caribbean, which made sense. My mom moved to the States from Haiti when she was a teenager. So if I had been like generations back, like in Haiti, that's the Caribbean, that made sense to me. Okay, I'm still on board. And by the way, if you're like a skeptic person like me, which I absolutely am, I do though very much trust my instinct about people. She didn't know anything about me besides my first name until we got on that call. And I gave her my last name to say the prayer to get into the records. So this is like all in real time. It's not like she could have researched me or anything. So I'm in the Caribbean. I'm in the same family. She said she saw me as like, I was like an herbal medicine healer, and I would do like lots of rituals with like the earth elements, and I would do like moon circles, and I was very priestess, witchy vibe kind of person. And I had already known from like previous like angel readings and stuff like that, that Archangel Raphael is with me most of the time. He is the archangel of healing and healers, which I am a nurse, so that made sense to me also, that I would have had nurse-like or healing-like careers or purposes in different lives. So I thought this was super cool. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm like a dope magic priestess lady. Who doesn't want to be that? That's super cool. And then she tells me uncomfortably, she didn't look comfortable. Like, she just didn't want to tell me. I think she could see, she watched how I died in this life. So it was, she explained to me it was a group of white men. I assumed like a colonizer sort of situation, you know, like all these white guys on an island trying to take spices or whatever the heck, I don't know. But there was a group of men that murdered me because they had a fear of my power. Like, I was powerful and magical, and that scared them, so they killed me. She said one of the men in the group had like so much remorse. He was in love with me, like we had a relationship, most likely secret. She said she believed that man was my husband now in this life. And I was like, whoa, like this was a lot of information, right? Like a ton of information. that was absolutely like the biggest takeaways I got from that reading. I honestly don't remember much else. I did take notes, but I don't think that they're important to bring up. But she had me do like a cute sort of like clearing of trauma, which would be considered shadow work in the spiritual community. So she had me like relay messages like to my old self, like, hey, you don't have to be like afraid to be powerful anymore. Like, this won't happen to you. You didn't do anything wrong. Nothing was your fault. Stuff like that. Like, let's put that fear to rest, right? And I absolutely have other like fear-based beliefs like ingrained in my brain that have to do with spirituality or magic or whatever. Because my mom did come from Haiti, and my mom, she grew up sort of, I mean, I don't think she was ever super religious, but she grew up Catholic, whereas I don't really know the ratio, but one of the big spiritual practices that exists in Haiti is voodoo. And I don't really know anything about it. I know like what you've seen in movies, but I did know that whatever my mom had seen growing up terrified her. And that was like a no-no, like a huge, big red X, dark magic kind of stuff. That was like a huge no-no. So I knew that was like somehow ancestrally imprinted in my DNA, right? So that's sort of what I took from the reading. I also was like realizing after the fact, and it's something that's really important, is if you're getting any readings or if you're doing any of this work, like trying to heal like your soul and your like past lives and all this stuff, it's important to integrate it and really pick it apart and like why is that what came up in this reading? Like, why did I need to know this? And in my current life now, if you might know me personally, you might not, my dad was white and he was like the best dad ever. My husband now is white. Best husband ever. Like, just like two of the best men I've ever met. And for me to live a life where I died in that way, and then to choose in this life to have positive interactions, influences with white males, that made so much sense to me. Because if I had, I mean, they did me dirty in that last life, and I needed to learn forgiveness. Maybe my husband needed to tie up that karma that he started, right? And that I wanted to learn that like not all white dudes suck. That would make perfect sense, right? That was my past life. And then I came here and picked a dad and a husband and like all these influences in my life that are also white males. It was so like, and like the more you think about it, like the more your mind gets blown, like truly. And so that reading was awesome, but it's like I wanted to know more about her, about who I was, which is when I found out about past life regression, hypnotherapy. Okay. This is why I'm really happy to be able to share this, because I'm like really on board with trying weird stuff or like exploring things that people like might think about for years before they do it. I'm like, give me like a good 7 seconds and I'm decided. Like, I'm going for it. We're going to do it. So now I'm like, how am I going to find a hypnotist? There surely are no past life regression hypnotists in the town I live in California. Granted, it is California, and I do live in the capital of California, which is like one of the most, woo-woo states in the States, right? But it's just nothing I'd ever heard of before, so I just assumed it would be like a long shot, or they would all be in Southern California and LA, or where all the, celery juicers are. So I was wrong. I found one. I'm sure there's more than one, but I found one that I really resonated with. She was literally like half an hour from my house. So I had called her to talk about like what I wanted to do, what were my goals, why was I even interested in this. She had asked if I've ever been hypnotized before. Absolutely not. Was that my favorite part of going to the California State Fair every year, is watching the hypnotist show? Yes. Would I ever volunteer for that? No. Heck no. I've never been close to being hypnotized ever before. So part of the prerequisites of getting this past life regression hypnotism done was that I had to practice first. So she had sent me, it was like an audio recording of her, and it's like a self-hypnosis meditation that she said you should do at least 3 times before your actual session. So I did that. it really just felt like a deep meditation, deep relaxation. You almost feel like your body kind of turns into pudding, but you're absolutely still there. Like you're not gone. Like you're still conscious of what's happening to your body, like in the 3D, like real world. So the day of my regression comes. I'm so excited. The first maybe hour or so was really just us chatting about what I wanted to take from that experience, why I was there, what I would experience, what is it like to be hypnotized, did I have any questions or concerns, was I freaked out, do I have any blocks, blah, blah, blah. So she was very professional, really put me at ease, just like a really nice regular lady. So when you go to get hypnotized, I've seen this a couple of ways where like people lay on a couch or something, but for me, she had a recliner, like a really cushy recliner chair that you sat in, and she was so thoughtful. Like she like packed you in there with pillows and like you get a blankie, and she puts like an eye mask on you if you want, which I recommend because I'm not a great visualizer. So like the darker it is, the better. Even if there's like any sunlight on the backs of my eyes, I cannot visualize anything. So I wasn't like really sure what was going to happen, right? Because I've already up to this point been doing a lot of guided meditations. I'm like really tapping into the spiritual world. Like I know I'm not a visualizer. So, and I told her, I was like, hey, I don't, like, will this work for me if I can't see things? And she said, yes, that there's multiple ways that you can experience like spiritual messaging or receive information. Some people hear it, some people just know it, some people can see, some people feel it like in their body. So it didn't necessarily matter that I couldn't see. It's pretty much what she said. Like there will be some sort of way that the information will be delivered to you and we're about to figure it out. So she hypnotizes me. It's really just like getting into a really deep relaxation, getting your brain waves into a specific state so that your subconscious is able to kind of release information that's like really buried deep down there. So the life that I went to, and it's not guaranteed, like you don't know really what's going to come up. She did also warn me that you might not like who you were and it might be like triggering or upsetting for you. So I started to get nervous. I mean, I was hoping I would go to this one life I just learned about because I wanted to know more, but like there's no guarantees, right? So luckily, that's exactly where I went. I just knew the answers to her questions. So there was no prompting on her end. She would ask me open-ended questions. I would wait for the information to come to me and I would tell her. That's literally how it worked. She asked where I was and I knew I was in my house. And I can see like vaguely, more like you're remembering an old dream, not like your eyes are open staring at something, but that's kind of how the visuals were. I could see that I was in my house. I knew it was my house, and it was small, and I had a fireplace that you like shovel coal into, like an OG fireplace, and I had like a ton of little pots and like vases everywhere that had different ingredients in it. Like you could tell I was like a potion maker or something. It reminded me so much of, if you've ever seen The Nightmare Before Christmas, you know when Sandy like makes all the potions to like put her dad to sleep, but like all those little black little vases with the lids, and she has like toads in one, whatever. That's literally what it was like. And she asked like, what is there anything on your feet? What are you wearing? Yada yada. And I was wearing a dress, very like Pirates of the Caribbean vibe, not the rich people, but like the pirates on the ship, you know, like cinched in waist dress that's like super loose at the bottom. I had really long, either dreadlocks or like braids. I couldn't tell, but it was like a lot of like really long, fierce hair. She asked what I was doing. I told her I was waiting for someone. I cannot explain to you how I knew I was waiting for someone. She just asked the question and I answered it. And I was nervous. I knew that. I told her that. And so she just said, you know, let me know when whoever you're waiting for shows up. And then in my little house, I have this little tiny window. It's very dark, okay? This is not like a 4-star situation. I see like a head walk by my little window, and that's what I'm waiting for. And she was like, who is it? I said, it's John. Also, she asked me my name in the beginning, obviously, and I told her it was Stacia. Is Stacia a name? I don't freaking know. If any of y'all are named Stacia, I swear I'll send you $100. If your name is Stacia, please leave a comment. I never heard that name before, but it's what came in my brain, and that's what I said. So John was here. John came in. We like made out, and he left. And I was nervous. I was like, oh, I was probably nervous someone would see. And I was like, that. The second I saw him, I knew that was my husband. I was like, that's Rowdy. I mean, that's John, but it's Rowdy. You know, that's my husband's name. It's a real name. Not kidding. So then she was like, okay, well, let's go to the next scene because it was like over. And of course, I go to watch myself get murdered. Okay, that's where I went next. And it was like in a, not a barn, but like a stall, like where horses are, you know? And it was dark and there was like a fire and I died. I was murdered, okay? It was horrible. We don't need details about that. But we did like an entire healing again, which was actually really beautiful. She had me go kneel down by my dead body on the ground. And she was asking me, she was like, what sort of feelings does this bring up? Like, where are those feelings located? And she had me take the feelings out of my body and turn them into love and like forgiveness and then put them back. And she had me face to face with myself. So it was me, Nadia, versus me, Stacia. And like I was like talking to her and just like pouring love all over her. Like, if you have anything like pent up or stored up from this life, like release it now, you know? And that would be sort of like ancestral healing. You could consider that. It's pretty common in therapy, mostly like with like going back to being a little kid. But once you've healed something, now in every timeline that is healed. That's how the universe works. Here on Earth, we have time and we have space, but those don't exist in the same way anywhere else. It's not, time isn't linear. So even though I'm saying that was a past life, that life is actually happening right now. Everything's happening at the same time. I haven't watched this movie, but I've heard a lot that movie, Everything Everywhere All at Once, is literally how the universe works. Like, our brains just can't even compute that information. We just weren't made to. Okay, we were made to have a Monday, a Tuesday, a Wednesday, a morning, a night, a past, a present, a future. We were made to think like that, so that's just how we think. But it was the craziest experience. It's one thing to have someone tell you something about yourself. Someone can tell you about your past life, but to experience it yourself, and I actually really appreciated that about the hypnotist, is that because I asked her, I was like, well, do you do readings and stuff? And she was like, I could, but I'd rather you experience it yourself. Like, I want you to see it because then it leaves literally no doubt in your mind, right? Nobody put the word Stacia in my head. Like, nobody told me I'd have like a pirate dress and dreadlocks, you know? That was just my mind. I even knew the year that it was, you guys. I even knew the year. And I can't remember now if it was 1842 or 1872. But I knew, like, instantly when she told me, I knew what year it was. I Googled that too, you best believe. Right after I left her office, I was like, Katie, 1872 in my phone. And absolutely, there was I don't think it was a war. I can't remember. I probably should have looked this up before I started talking. But it made sense that there would have been white people where I was, right? So it's really crazy. And like, how past life regression even came about was from a hypnotist. So he used to regress people to like child traumas. And because when people are traumatized in their childhood, usually they won't pass like that stage of development, or they will internalize something about that trauma that affects the rest of their life. So these people would come to him with like weird pains in their body or like disorders they can't get over, hoping that it was something in their childhood that they can heal through that session. What happened was he had a subject that was so easily, their brainwaves were so easily slowed down, and they could get into such a deep state of hypnosis that they went to another life on accident. And so this was like an accidental finding. And now, which I might do next, you guys let me know if you want to see something like this, you can be hypnotized to go into your life between lives. So when you're not in a body, when you are a soul, when you are in heaven, it's crazy. I will absolutely do an entire episode on the journey of souls, of like what happens from being outside of a body, coming in, to leaving it. It's wild, you guys. This universe is wild. We think it's complicated here. This is so simplified. This is like kindergarten. Our brains are that of like 4-year-olds. I'm not joking. Okay. Do I think a past life regression is necessary for you to do? No, I don't. Do I think it's a very powerful experience? Yes. Do I think it might give you some deeper understanding of your soul, your purpose, your path, maybe the patterns that keep happening in your life over and over? If there's something that you're not understanding, what lesson am I not learning? So the universe keeps slapping me with it in the face. Yes, it would be helpful for all of those things, absolutely. But no, I don't think it's necessary. Also, we all technically have the ability to go into our past lives on our own. Will that take a lot of work? Yes. Are you willing to do it? Maybe. Maybe not. But the option is out there. There are people that can do it for you so that you can have the actual experience. It is amazing. I will absolutely do an Akashic reading again. I think that can be like a once or twice a year sort of a situation because the information will change depending on what changes you've made in your life, the information that you're given. It's also cool to know who you've been, and you've probably been someone like extremely powerful, and you have all of that power within you, and you just need to remember. So it's kind of like the 4-minute mile, right? It was impossible until someone did it, and then a bunch of people did it the year after it was done once. So just if someone told you like, actually you're a really powerful witch, like if you just knew it for a fact, you're like, oh well shit, duh. And then it's a lot easier to awaken like all of your power. It's like, maybe I'm guessing, is this even real? You're second guessing yourself all the time. Your ego mind is just loud, barking at you like, you're crazy. What are you doing? This isn't real. I do think it's helpful in that aspect to like experience who you've been before, because then you can be that again, or you can change that if you want to. But that is my personal experience with past lives. I have a ton more. I've been told many times that I am a very old soul, but your age has nothing to do with how evolved you are. Someone could take 10 lifetimes to learn one lesson. Someone could learn 3 lessons in one lifetime. So your age doesn't really matter. It doesn't correlate to how advanced you are at all. But I think it's cool to know. And if you're like a super information seeker like me, then you probably think it's cool to know too. And I will leave both people's information down below, my Akashic record reader and my past life hypnotist. They both can do virtual sessions. Actually, the Akashic reader does do past life hypnosis. The only reason I did not do it with her is because she's located in Maine, and I didn't believe I could truly be hypnotized over Zoom. Like I needed to be in the perfect environment. You know what I mean? But I'm sure she does a great job. Both of their contacts will be in the description. I really appreciate you listening to my story. If you know about any of your past lives, please tell me. If you know where you originated from, please tell me. I would love to know. That's something I'm still trying to pinpoint. Probably doesn't matter. And yeah, if there's anything you want to hear about from me in the future, any sort of weird reading you want me to do, I'd be happy to do it. Any questions, leave them for me below. I hope to see you next week. Thank you for sticking around, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.